Hello and welcome to this week's College Planning Tip of the Week. I'm Nancy Steenson with Steenson College Coaching, and with me is Jack Wang. Jack, we recently talked about the downside of falling in love with one school and my experience and perspective on that. I'd love to know your perspective on the financial implications of falling in love with one school.
Yeah, that's a great question. Thanks for asking, Nancy. And when we talk about having a balanced list, which I know we've spoken about, we're really talking about emissions factor, right? Likelihood of getting in and things like that. But I also work with families and having them put together balanced lists, but through a financial lens. So is this list of schools affordable? Right now, the unfortunate part is a lot of people don't think about it that way. They go with, the reach schools, the target, and the safeties, but affordability has to be a factor. But of course, as you know, what often can happen is parents or students will fall in love with their one school. And if they're going to fall in love with one school, it's almost always that reach school, the dream school, if you will. Okay. And so one of the things that I tell families is that they need to really be prepared for a very difficult conversation. And the more prepared you are in advance, the easier this is going to be. Because for many families, what ends up happening is that student gets into one of those dream schools. Probably not all of them, but one of them. Okay. And more often than not, perhaps that student doesn't qualify for a scholarship or doesn't qualify for aid. So the price at that dream school is the full sticker price, which, as you know, today can run upwards of $85,000 per year. But at the same time, you're going to have that student also be accepted at one of the other schools that will give a lot of scholarships or financial aid or whatever the case may be. And that college might only cost, let's say, $20,000 a year or something substantially lower. And so that really difficult conversation comes about when you have that situation arise, which happens a lot, because then the family's left with trying to figure out, is that dream school worth it, right? And what does that even mean? And so, you know, and many families can't really define what that means. Of course, they think about, well, the name and the reputation and the networking and getting the jobs coming out, or the ability to go to graduate school and all that stuff. Yes, those things are important, but usually not as much as most people think. Because a great state school can get your student a job and has the alumni network and can get the internships and get you into grad school and all this stuff, just like an Ivy League would as well. Okay, there's really not a lot of difference there. But what inevitably happens is someone ends up crying. And I say that sort of in tongue in cheek, but it's also true, because either A, the student is crying because you tell your student, sorry, sweetheart, or sorry, son, or whatever, son or daughter, you can't go because we just can't afford it. And of course, then they don't get their dream school, right? Or B, the parents are crying because they had to say yes to their son or daughter. And now they're crying because they realize, oh my goodness, we're on the hook for $85,000 a year, right? So we're never going to be able to retire or eat out again. They're envisioning a life of ramen noodles morning, noon, and night from now till the end of time, right? But somebody ends up crying, which is just terrible. And so when we talk about the balanced list, we talk about, likelihood of missions, but also an affordability range, right? So I'm not saying that people can't have reach schools or only have to have safety schools, but you have to have that very realistic discussion between you and your spouse, if applicable, and certainly with your student. Like, look, this is the range that we can afford, right? And so, you don't want to fall in love with one school. You want to fall in love, as you said before, with many schools, so that these are all within the realm of possibility, and you're not stuck in that situation where you have a student or a parent thinking, well, they gone to dream school, so they have to go, but then it leads to financial ruin or something else, right? That's just no fun, and just no fun to have that conversation. So balanced list, fall in love with many schools, both for admissions reasons, but also for financial.
Really great advice, Jack. Thank you so much for sharing that. And thank you, everyone, for joining us. And we'll see you next time on College Planning Tip of the Week.